Today's lesson is Compare Real Numbers, Lesson 1.10. Standards are 8NS1, 8NS2, 8EE2, and the objective is to compare mathematical expressions. The essential question is, why is it helpful to write numbers in different ways? Example number 1. Compare each set of numbers with less than, greater than, or equal to. In order to compare these, I'm going to convert these to decimals. I know that I can make an estimation of the square root of 5 by drawing a number line. The square root of 5 comes after the square root of 4, but before the square root of 9. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. Halfway in between is 2.5. So I notice that the square root of 5 is very close to the square root of 4. It's about there. So a good approximation would be about 2.1. Now I'm going to go ahead and convert my mixed number into a decimal. I'm going to use the strategy in and out. I'm going to divide. The 2 is going to go inside. The 3 is going to go outside. 3 can't go into 2, so I'm going to place a 0 above the 2. And I'm going to add a decimal and another 0. So I know that 3 can go into 26 times. 6 times 3 gives me 18. When I subtract, I'm going to end up with 2. And then I'm going to bring another 0 down. I notice that there's a pattern, and that if I do this again, I'm going to have a 6 up top, and it's going to continue repeating. So I'm just going to put the repeating bar up top, noting that my 6 is being repeated. Now I can't forget my whole number in front of the decimal, so it's going to be 2 and 6/10 being repeated. So now I see that 2.1 is less than 2.6. So I'm going to have a less than sign. So the square root of 5 is less than 2 and 2/3. Now if you forget which way the symbol goes, you can always remember back to elementary school that the alligator always eats the bigger number. Example 2. Compare each set of numbers with less than, greater than, or equal to. I have the square root of 15, so I know I'm going to estimate. So I have a number line, and I know that the square root of 15 is between the square root of 9 and the square root of 16. So the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 16 is 4. Halfway in between is 3.5. And I know that the square root of 15 is really close to the square root of 16. So a good estimation would be 3.9. So if I compare 3.9 to 3.5, I know that the square root of 15 is going to be greater than 3.5. Example number 3. Order the set of numbers from least to greatest. In order to order these, it would be helpful to convert these to a decimal and then place them on the number line. That way we can see which one is the least and which one is the greatest. I'm going to start off with the square root of 30. I know I need to estimate, so I'm going to use a number line. So the square root of 30 is between the square root of 25 and the square root of 36. The square root of 25 is 5, square root of 36 is 6. So halfway in between is 5.5. So I know that the square root of 30 is going to be about here. So a good estimate would be about 5.4. Now I'm going to move on to my next number. The number 6 does not need to be converted because it's already a whole number. So I'm going to move on to 5 and 4 over 5. So I'm going to go ahead and use a strategy in and out. 4 is going to go in, 5 is going to go out. I'm going to go ahead and divide. 5 cannot go into 4, so I'm going to put a 0 up top. I'm going to add a decimal and a 0. So 5 can go into 40 8 times. 8 times 5 gives me 40. I subtract, I end up with 0. So now I need to add my whole number. So my answer would be 5 and 8/10. Now 5 and 36 being repeated is already in decimal form, so I do not need to convert it. So now I'm going to go ahead and label these numbers on the number line. So my first one is 5.4. That one would be here. And I'm going to go ahead and label that. And that would be the square root of 30. I'm going to label it the way they gave it to me. My next number is 6. That one is here. I'm going to label that as 6. Now 5 and 4 over 5 is 5.8. That one would be here. I'm going to label that 5 and 4 over 5. And then my last number is 5 and 36 being repeated. So that one would be about here. I'm going to label that 5 and 36 being repeated. Now I'm going to go ahead and list them. Now I can see which number is the least, which is 5 and 36 being repeated. I have the square root of 30. I have 5 and 4 over 5. And then I have the number 6. So this is my answer.